Before we get started on this thousandth probably YouTube analysis that you've scrolled through because you're trying to stave off the boredom, don't worry, I've been there. I just gotta ask you one question. Which one came first? Ranch or Cool Ranch? Now that's out of the way, let's get to introductions. My first video on the channel. Hi, my name's Wesley. I overthink things so you don't have to, but let's just be real. Everyone overthinks things. I'm not that special, you know? But yeah, let's go ahead and get into the topic, shall we? Since the beginning of YouTube, literally millions of videos have been uploaded to the site by literally everyone and their grandma. Every single one of these videos, well, almost every single one, do seem to have a purpose to them. Meme compilations are meant to make you laugh, cooking videos are meant to make you cook, and Logan Paul videos are meant to rot your brain. Haha, Logan Paul joke in 2022. 2023, sorry. But yeah, but there's a select few videos that we all as a collective don't know what they mean. One example that I always think of when I think of these types of videos is salad fingers. And that is like a big juggernaut of random videos that you just show to your friends to get that shock value out of, but nobody actually knows what they mean. And this series that I'm talking about today is one of those little niche series on YouTube that nobody knows why it's made, what's going on in it. And that series is called Dilbert 1 through 3 by C. Boyardee. Now, Dilbert 1 through 3 by C. Boyardee, I discovered this back in 10th grade, and it has literally stuck with me ever since I first watched it. And it's a very tough series to get into. For some context, Dilbert 1 through 3 by C. Boyardee is actually based on a comic book strip of the same name, Dilbert. And even knowing that context, you still need a lot to get, not really a lot to get into, you just kind of need to jump into it. But throughout this video, well, at least before I explain what everything means in the Dilbert trilogy, I need to explain to you what happens in the Dilbert trilogy so that we're both on the same page, we both have the same information, and everything will be hunky-dory. So yeah, without further ado, let's get to this series that is near and dear to my heart, Dilbert. Alright, so Dilbert 1, as it is called on YouTube, starts out with the creator, C. Boyardee, in front of his monitor, and he calls Dilbert over. He says, "Dilbert, come here. Look at this cool new site, it's called YouTube." And Dilbert goes up, sits in the chair, and does a little bit of typing. But a couple of seconds into typing, he gets sucked in to the website, to the internet, basically. And that's the end of Dilbert 1. I promise it gets more interesting. You just gotta bear with me. Full prefacing though, Dilbert's 2 and 3 do have a plethora of scenes where there are flashing lights and like flashing colors on the screen. So for sure, epilepsy warning, you have been warned. Click off this video, please take care of yourself. I don't want you to go to the hospital because you're watching a 20-year-old rant about a 7-minute long web series. Thank you. At the start of Dilbert 2, we see Dilbert in this kind of rainbow place. It's like a space between. It's weird. We see him there, and then we also see the image of Marilyn Monroe there, and they both begin to make out. And then as they're making out, then Marilyn Monroe changes and forms into an image of E.T. And from this point on, the rainbow scene stops, and Dilbert is seen holding a picture of E.T. in his hands at the edge of his bed. And he throws the picture of E.T. and it shatters, leaving Dilbert to ponder alone in his messy room. After this, we then switch scenes to the office that Dilbert works at. Dilbert is scrolling through Twitter and he tweets out with, honestly, very funnily, like, very funny. It's very funny how he just struggles to type in every single scene that he's typing. Like, it's just gonna be basically one letter per minute. But yeah, he types and he posts to Twitter, why Shrek is piss, why Shrek is piss, hashtag Italiano. That was not a stutter. He types why Shrek is pissed twice and then hashtag Italiano. That isn't going to contribute anything to analysis. I just thought it was funny. But after this, Dilbert's boss shows up and he tells Dilbert that he needs to now wear a bolo tie because it is now company policy. And after this is basically the weirdest interaction we get in the Dilbert series. Dilbert goes over to the water station in his office, and there is his coworker, Wally. And Wally asks Dilbert, "Welcome to the watering hole. Are you here to wet your whistle?" And Dilbert responds, "I'm here to wet something else, mother hecker." And they then get into this weird conversation about football. And as soon as Wally mentions NFL.com, Dilbert kind of has what can only be described as a panic episode, where he just repeats the phrase "hut hut 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 hut," and his head turns into a football, is kicked by a disembodied shoe across a field. I know. And then after this scene, we see Wally at the copying machine, and Dilbert comes up behind Wally with a knife and stabs him in the back, leaving him to bleed out on the copying machine. And after this, Dilbert jumps out the window. And that's it for Dilbert 2. I know this is a lot. Like I told you, it's a weird series. But don't worry, it's almost done. This next episode is the last episode of Dilbert that I need to explain to you before I get into the analysis. So hang tight. We start off in the office for Dilbert 3. Dilbert and Wally are seen ducking behind two corners of the building. And after this, they're seen shooting at somebody off screen. And there is a slight in-between segment, the rainbow scene, it's the in-between basically of every single Dilbert video, where we see Dilbert huffing drugs and watching, as Wendigoon would love to call it, kithing or kithography. Then after this, we see Dilbert in his messy room again, in front of his computer, and his dog says very bluntly to him, "I think you should kill yourself, Dilbert." We then see Dilbert on Twitter, stating that he's going to kill himself that Friday, and we see Wally on Twitter, presumably Wally, respond, "Casual Friday." After this, we flash forward to the present, and Dilbert and Wally are holding their boss at gunpoint. They then shoot their boss, and the skin kind of gets ripped off with the bullet, and what can only be described as demonic laughing is heard when the skull is revealed. After this, we see Dilbert holding his coworker, Alice, at gunpoint, and she pleads with Dilbert. She says, "Please don't kill me." And after this, Dilbert is kind of portrayed as some all-knowing entity. He is basically a pyramid, and his brain is at the top with glasses, and it looks kind of Egyptian. It's weird. But Dilbert poses the same question that I asked you at the start of this video. Which one came first, Ranch or Cool Ranch? Now the coworker responds with what everyone thinks the answer should be, Ranch. That's a very logical answer, but Dilbert kills Alice, and he rants about how stupid she is as her blood spells out on the screen, subhuman. After this, we get a scene of Dilbert and Wally tired out from the shooting, and Wally says on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, and they both have guns pointed to their heads, and Wally, obviously, game ends, but Dilbert hesitates. He thinks to himself, "Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you that I always loved you." And he kisses the corpse of Wally, and then kills himself as well. And then the words "dehumanize yourself" and "face the bloodshed" scrolls all the way through the screen until it is all you can see. And that's the ending of Dilbert 3 and the ending of the Dilbert trilogy. Now, I know that was a lot to digest, and it probably didn't. My summary of it probably didn't help. But you see, Dilbert's one of those series. Like as I said in the start, Dilbert's one of those series that you scroll in the comments, nobody knows the meaning to it. Everyone agrees that it's haha funny, but nobody knows the meaning to it. And before this analysis section, I just want to preface that nobody knows the meaning to it. It was probably just made for fun. The creator of it probably didn't have any greater meaning to it. But as Wendigoon said in his Salad Fingers, I think he said it best, that even if something was not made with a purpose, that does not mean that you yourself can apply your own experiences and with a little bit of context clues to the artwork. And I think that I have some sort of semblance of a narrative with Dilbert that I would love to share with you if you want to continue watching this video after that really crappy summary. Now, Dilbert 1 is fairly simple to analyze. It does set up a lot of things for the future of the series, but it is fairly simple in and of itself to analyze. Dilbert is introduced to YouTube through CBYRD, and he gets sucked into it. Now, with some things in the Dilbert series, I believe that some things actually happen, and other things are just representations of what's happening in the character's head. For example, right now in Dilbert episode 1, we see Dilbert being sucked into the computer, but I don't believe that happens in real life. I believe that's a representation of Dilbert being sucked into online culture and the internet as a whole. Now you may be asking, why does CBYRD ask where Dilbert went? I feel like that's because Dilbert, now being this chronically online individual, does not seem like himself anymore. He has lost the semblance of himself because he is so chronically online. And we see him online throughout the whole series. We see him scrolling Twitter, and we see him watching Kith a lot. And being online like this disconnects him from his job and society as a whole. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, that's Dilbert 1, time for Dilbert 2. At the start of Dilbert 2, we see Dilbert making out with Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe in her time was really just a big symbol for sex in the industry, and it's no different here. I think that Dilbert making out with Marilyn Monroe is him getting obsessed with kithography and enjoying it for the first few moments until Marilyn Monroe transforms into E.T. Now, I believe this transformation represents Dilbert coming to terms with the fact that having an actual person to love and take care of, and something that doesn't come from online means is an alien concept to him. It's something that he feels he can never achieve in real life due to his workload and also now his addiction with the internet, which is gripping him. After this, we see Dilbert scrolling on Twitter in the office, and his boss approaches him and says that he needs to wear a bolo tie because it's now office policy. This bolo tie looks for one, ridiculous. And I feel that it is a representation of the societal expectations being put on an individual. And just like Dilbert has to wear a bolo tie, he believes that he has to stay in line, work a 9-to-5 job until he is 60 and then withers away at 70, enjoying only 10 years of retirement. It's the nihilist view of life, and despite not liking the bolo tie, Dilbert puts it on because he feels that he's alone. He feels that this is the only way to walk through life. That is, until he meets Wally at the watering hole. You see, Wally was always portrayed in the original comic as the slacker type character, the character who does the least amount of work and avoids literally every single punishment. And it's no different here. You see Dilbert and Wally bonding over football, but as soon as Wally mentions NFL.com, Dilbert kind of freaks out. He starts chanting hut, 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 and his brain seems to be exploded. And I feel like it's from the realization that someone else other than him is chronically online, and that means someone else is experiencing the same pain as him, which means he is not alone. And Wally is the perfect character to convey this, because slacker type characters are not the societal norm, are not what society wants you to be. So when Dilbert meets Wally, everything seems to change for him. After this scene, Dilbert stabs Wally in the back. Now, when I was saying some things actually happen and some things are symbolic of what is happening in the characters' minds, this scene is really why I said that, because I believe that Dilbert stabbing Wally doesn't actually happen physically. It is Dilbert sharing his discontentness with life, this worldview that he has gotten from being chronically online with Wally, because he thinks that if anyone will understand him, and if anyone should be at his side, it should be Wally. And after he shares his worldview, he tries to end it all by jumping out of the window. And as we see in Dilbert 3, this does not work out for him. But that seed is planted in Wally. And that's an amazing segue to the final installment of the series. Dilbert 3 is the culmination of what Dilbert has been going through. We see in the flashback Dilbert in his room watching cathography, and even though he's tired of it, because that is the only semblance of human affection that he has been used to and he has been programmed to intake since him being chronically online. And he's alone in his room, and his dog, Dogbert, he tells Dilbert very bluntly. He says, "I think you should kill yourself, Dilbert." And this is kind of cute. It's kind of a big, small moment, because even Dilbert's dog, man's best friend, sees Dilbert and he's like, wow, this guy is past the point of no return. Flash forward to the scene where Wally and Dilbert kill their boss. The bullet goes straight through his head, leaving only the skull, and laughter plays. If the boss was symbolic of societal norms being put on the individual, as seen through the bolo tie scene, this is symbolic of Wally and Dilbert giving up societal norms, rejecting societal norms. And the laughter is symbolic of society laughing at them, telling them that this mundane life is the only life there is, and to deviate from it is a fool's errand. This next scene is probably the most telling scene in the series. The original comic is depicted as the average workaholic type character. You know, someone that society, it's star employee that society wants everyone to be, a piece of a larger machine that works perfectly fine where it is. Dilbert sees Alice as not as society itself, like he saw his boss, but as a fellow coworker. So when asked for a chance to spare her life, Dilbert gives her the chance by asking her the question, which came first, ranch or Cool Ranch? Now, when Alice gives the answer that is most logical and everyone would probably give, ranch, he kills her. He sees her as someone who thinks like society wants her to think, who doesn't go against the grain, who is subhuman, as seen in Dilbert 3. This is why, in Dilbert's eyes, the correct answer to that question is Cool Ranch. In the last scene of the series, we see Dilbert and Wally kill themselves, but Dilbert hesitates. He admits his love for Wally, and I feel like this scene is Dilbert realizing that he had gained what he thought he could not obtain. Someone who he could cherish, someone who shared the same ideas, someone who he loved. And I feel like in this moment, Dilbert realizes that he made a mistake. He was online so much, focusing on the things that he didn't have, that he didn't realize that what he wanted, someone to love, was right in front of him the whole time. The last line of the series, dehumanize yourself and face the bloodshed, in my eyes means that when we don't have what we want and we focus on that, we tend to leave behind a piece of our humanity. When we focus on what we don't have, whether it be a fulfilling job, friends, a person to love in Dilbert's case, we often forget about the relationships we already have, the things we already have, and we become ungrateful for what we already have. And I'm in an age where people are more connected with their phones and the internet than people around them, being fed images of things that they want, rather than looking around and seeing what they have. I believe this is a very important lesson to learn. And I just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for sitting through my crazy man ramblings about this series that means so much to me. But yeah, I guess that's it for my Dilbert analysis video. I will catch y'all on the flip-flop. See ya.